all right. It's time for yet another action-packed, fun-bursted, flavored, crystal-enhanced episode of goddamn Rage Like Podcast. Whew, right here on Rage Select. I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
Yep. And it's hot in this room today. I don't know why. I got my air conditioning all cranked down and everything. And,
I'm actually enjoying this right now because my office has got the air, like the AC, like on blast.
Yeah.
It is freezing.
Dude, I want to work in your office.
I fucking like...
You know when people complain about, they're like, oh man, they always keep it so cold in here. And I'm like, dude, that's awesome. That means you can wear like a big heavy winter coat with like your hood down to work. And then
yeah, but when you walk home and you walk outside and it's blazing balls hot,
yeah,
that don't work so much.
Well, you leave your jacket at work, you know.
No, it's just one of those things.
Make a pillow fort around your.
Oh God, I wish.
You would just fall asleep in there, though.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's time, John. It's time this week for the Rage Site Podcast, and we have a real weird smorgasbord this week. I wish there was a thing that I could kind of like pin. Like last week we had a bunch of Destiny news and there was a Nintendo Direct, and this week it's just kind of like, I don't know, it's a bunch of bullshit.
Well, the other problem is that I think the big thing is
yes. Yeah, we'll get to that. But before we get to that, I actually have another thing to talk about real briefly. But John, how's it been going? I haven't asked you in a while on the podcast.
It's been a week or 2 weeks, but yeah, it's all right, Could be better, could be worse. Trying to save money to move, but
that's the worst.
It is. It really is the worst.
Because you know what,
especially when you don't have that money to save.
It's a lot. It's always a shit ton of money, and it's not like you get anything good at the end of it. At the end of it, you get to pay somebody else rent to live in a place.
Yeah.
So it's always like the most unsatisfying purchase that you can make. It's just like, hey, we're getting your first month and your last month, and all these utilities are going to need deposits, and it's fucking bullshit.
Well, I mean, luckily with utilities, you just transfer them.
Yeah.
You just say, hey, on this date, change to this address.
Yeah. See, my problem is that I always, like, for the last few years, it seems like I turned my utilities on the first time when I was in Austin in, like, the middle of the month. And so my bill always comes due on, like, the 14th of every month for, like, the power or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I refuse to pay shit in the middle of the month because I pay everything at the end of the month, like a fucking human being and not a goddamn animal. So, like, for my last place, when I moved, technically, I had made every one of my electricity payments late every month for, like, the 3 years that I lived in my place before that.
Yeah.
So then when I moved, they were like, yeah, we're going to need, like, $400 from you. And it was just like, fine. I don't pay it when you give it to me, but I pay it on the same day. It's not my fault. You're charging people bills in the middle of the month. Fucking crazy electric. Stupid electricity. I'm going to start up my own electricity.
You could call them and ask them to change that date.
Dude, have you ever called a utility company? It's like 4 hours on hold, and then somebody who's just like, I don't know, we can't really do that. And, I don't know. Anyway, that's really boring. I'll tell you what's also kind of boring, depending on your level of involvement, John, and that's Twin Peaks.
I haven't watched any of it.
Okay. Are you a fan of old Twin Peaks?
I am. I want to watch it. I just don't have Showtime, so I have to wait for the eventual release on DVD or Blu-ray or someone to give me access to their Showtime account or whatever.
Yeah, it's weird. I actually thought that because there are 4 episodes that came out.
Yeah, well, they aired 2, and then they put the 3rd and 4th up on their on-demand, like, to... thing.
Oh, okay. But what's fucked up is I didn't know that they were actually doing this horse shit, like, releasing every week thing, like, television shows do.
Yeah.
So, like, I went through all 4 of those, and I was just like, wait a minute, is that all you got? And then I looked online, it's like, no, they got a whole season, but it's like because last week, technically, they put out the first 2, and the second 2 air on TV, like, this week. It's like I have to wait 2 weeks to get any more of it.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I've heard it's the most David Lynch thing ever in the existence of David Lynch.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I stopped with fucking Lynch because I went to the Austin premiere of Inland Empire, and that movie is a fucking mess. It is.
Is that the one he recorded on like a VHS camcorder?
No, but you're thinking in the right direction. So as near as I can tell, this is the story that I heard. I don't know if it's true, but that, like, I heard somebody tell me one time that the way that David Lynch makes movies, like his own movies, not like Dune or the studio ones that he makes, right, is that he will think of a scene, like a visual scene that he really likes, and then he'll get like 8 or 9 of those, and then when he gets 8 or 9 of those, then he'll stick them right? And then he'll like write a story that goes through those scenes.
Yeah,
because he's a very visual director,
and that makes sense for him.
Sure, it also makes sense to the reasons why a lot of his movies just don't make fucking sense, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying. You tell me that's how his thought process or his work process, and I'm like, yeah, I believe it.
Right. So with Inland Empire, they were at a point where the home, like the handheld camera, that you could, the handheld like digital cameras that you could buy were cheap enough, easy enough to use that you could basically, and we all know this, it's been like 5 or 6 years or 10 years since it's happened, but if you had a little bit of scratch, you could go buy a camera at Best Buy that recorded on par with what you would get out of a movie camera. Not like your high definition James Cameron 600 millimeter Avatar camera, right? But just something that you could put together, a thing that looks like a movie, and you could shoot it with a camera that you bought, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have to have a big studio camera.
It's surprising, like one of the things I learned from a friend of mine who works for a news studio, that how much you can get away with any camera that you buy, and then just the proper lighting.
Right.
Like
right.
It's like if you can get the proper lighting and everything else, you can make any camera work.
Yeah. So what I understand for Inland Empire was that he got one of those cameras, and then when he got an idea, he would call up the people that were in that movie and just straight up film the scene right then. So Inland Empire was even more fragmented than a normal David Lynch thing. It was also, if I remember correctly, like 3 hours long or something. It was fucking, 180 minutes. Yep, 3 hours long. I know because I saw it at the Paramount where the seats are really small, and I had to sit in a tiny seat for 3 hours watching this fucking Laura Dern going crazy on camera. Like, that was as much as I could tell you about what happened in that movie. Anyway, he hasn't made a film since then. That was 2006.
Oh, no, yeah. No, I remember. He basically retired.
Yeah. Which kind of sucks because Mulholland Drive that came before that is actually one of his more coherent movies.
Yeah, Mulholland Drive's pretty good.
I mean, I like Lost Highway a little bit better because I saw it when I was 17. And it was just like, oh, man, how weird is that? Yeah. But anyway, so new Twin Peaks came out.
I still love Blue Velvet.
Yeah. I'm kind of half and half with Blue Velvet. I think that of all of his stuff, Lost Highway is probably my favorite. But
I mean, Twin Peaks is my favorite thing that he's done.
Yeah,
like the original series, because I can't comment on the new season. But like the original 2 seasons are probably collectively my favorite thing that he's ever done. But following that is Blue Velvet.
So. I'm like half and half because I actually went back to watch Twin Peaks a little while back and I forgot there's like a lot. Like, man, you really got to care about fucking like what's up with they'll get into this like Laura Palmer's friends and their little sub things, and it just takes up so much time. Or like the receptionist at the police station and her subplot, and there's like some of that stuff where I'm just like, motherfucker, just did you put Kyle MacLachlan on screen for 45 minutes and move this goddamn story along? And actually, it's funny because a lot of the new stuff that came out reminds me that David Lynch is not afraid of just making you watch 10 minutes of a scene where very little happens.
Oh yeah, so it's weird. So here's the funny thing going back to the original Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
a lot of people will say that the first season is the best season of Twin Peaks.
Sure,
and I actually agree with that. From a story standpoint, the first season is probably the most coherent and
it's a murder mystery. Who killed Laura Palmer?
The second one is actually my favorite season.
Oh, yeah?
Because I kind of like all the crazy cookies. Like, I love the scene where, spoilers if you never watched Twin Peaks, at the end of the first season, Cooper gets shot.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends, like him shot, bleeding on the floor.
Yeah.
The opening of the season premiere is like 10 minutes of him bleeding on the floor, just going, hey, talking into his recorder, basically talking about how he's probably going to die. And not even like rushed, he's just very calm, very collected, like, man, there are a lot of things I wish I could have done, but and then like this bellhop comes in and he's like, oh, you can put that on there. And like the guy it's the longest, most awkward thing. That is honestly one of my favorite scenes in the entire series because I fucking love shit like that.
Yeah. Well, you would probably like this. So it picks up along, like at the end of it was season 2 where Laura Palmer comes in and says, I'll see you in 25 years or whatever.
Yes,
and then this is picking up from there, right?
Yeah.
All the stuff, like near as I could tell, I think the guy who played the sheriff has been replaced. And I don't know if it's because he's dead or he wouldn't come back or whatever, but there's a lot of people.
Well, I think the actor did come back.
Or maybe I'm thinking of something.
It just hasn't appeared in the show yet.
Okay, it's
or
also
maybe he didn't. I don't know.
Very possible that I don't remember everybody's fucking name, right? I remember Kyle MacLachlan, and that's about it. But lots of people that are back. It very much kind of picks up from where the previous one left off, which is really interesting because a lot of times when a show, 25 years ago, a show got canceled, didn't get a third season, and now they're picking it up for a third season, and they're like, they've taken the time into account. There's obviously stuff that's happened that's part of the mystery that you don't know, like what's going on. Again, spoiler alert for people who haven't watched the original Twin Peaks, but because this will make no sense to anybody else, but like Doppelganger Cooper's out in the world and has obviously been doing stuff for a long time, but those characters all still exist and there's new stuff. So by and large, it was actually really good because I think what's his name? Mark Snow, or who's the guy that like was his partner on Twin Peaks? It's because whenever they say that it was like, it's created by
I don't know who is
Mark Frost.
Mark Frost. Okay.
So close with that Mark Snow shit.
Yeah.
But it's good. And like a lot of returning people, a lot of stuff. Now there is one thing that doesn't really work. And that is that for anybody who's watched a bunch of David Lynch stuff, like in the 90s, David Lynch was kind of doing what he can with what he had. And there was a lot of kind of like effects or weirdness that he would put in with kind of digital effects and stuff that was very 90s. And a lot of the weirdness in here is still very 90s. So like,
I'm going to love that.
There's some stuff where I'm just like, look at that. I'm like, fuck David Lynch. I could do that in Premiere. I see what you did there. That's not even a special effect. It doesn't even match what's going on in the shot. But for the most part, all the actors are really good. I'm really enjoying it so far. If you haven't, this is one of those things where if you haven't watched the original Twin Peaks, I really, really, really would like to strongly urge you not to watch this until you've watched Twin Peaks. Because it is not holding anybody's hand fucking at all.
Yeah,
like,
no. A lot of my friends who are like huge Twin Peaks fans are like, yeah, no. If you haven't watched the show, go watch the show and then come back to this.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a thing that happened in the new series, but it's not like a thing. But like at one point, the log lady calls Deputy Hawk in the police department and says a bunch of weird shit to him, and I'm just like, if you didn't know who these two were, you would just be like, what the fuck am I watching? Like, this doesn't make any goddamn sense. All the Black Lodge stuff, like, they don't talk about any of that. I don't even think they say that Laura Palmer got killed. Like, I don't think they're even holding your hand that much. This is like, you should hit stop on the last episode of season 2, and then you should start watching this because it's really not doing anything to ease a new person into the show.
Yeah, see, I'm kind of wanting to do a thing where, because once they get season 3 done, which is like 18 episodes, I think, if I remember correctly.
Something like that. It's long.
Yeah, it's like 18 episodes. Like, hopefully by the time it's done, and then they release like a complete set, like Blu-ray with all 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I would totally buy that and just marathon, because like that's what I want.
Fire Walk with Me, too.
Yeah.
Fire Walk with Me is good. I mean,
it's all right.
Yeah. But so anyway, I think that if you're a fan of Twin Peaks, it's good. I think if you're not a fan of it, like if you try to watch Twin Peaks and you didn't like it, this is just more, and it's more Twin Peaksy than any Twin Peaks that has ever Twin Peaksed. So if you were like, hey, maybe I didn't like that last one, but let me give this new one a shot. Let me just tell you right now, buddy, this one ain't for you. You just go watch that Nun serial or that Nun documentary on Netflix or whatever you want to instead. Go watch season 8 of Archer. It finished up. I watched the last episode last night. It's really good. Liked it quite a bit. But if you are a fan of Twin Peaks, it's really good. If you're a fan of if you are interested in Twin Peaks but you haven't ever watched it, I would really like to recommend that you go and start it the first season.
Yeah.
I know that's a big ask, but I feel like if you're interested in getting into Twin Peaks, you're going to like the new season way more if you have any idea what the fuck is going on.
Also, as a warning for those people who might go, okay, I am going to go watch the first season.
Yeah.
All of the weird shit that you've probably heard people talk about doesn't really there's some weird shit in the first season, but
it takes a while.
It like a lot of the weird shit doesn't actually happen until the second season. Like it kind of like, or towards the end of the first season and then carries over into the second season.
Yep.
And it's also very clear they had no idea the answer to the mystery that they set up in the first episode.
Yep. Also, if you're going to watch it, most people I don't know if people know this or not, but Fire Walk with Me is a prequel to season 1 and 2 of Twin.
It's a prequel and a sequel, but yeah,
to Twin Peaks. But you should watch it after you watch season 1 and 2. You should start it. You should do it in chronological order. Season 1, season 2. Fire Walk with Me is optional, but if you're into it, you're probably going to want to watch. It's like 2 hours. You just knock it out, and then season 3. But by and large, it's actually really interesting to see. I mean, fucking for good or for bad, somebody gave David Lynch 18 one-hour episodes of Twin Peaks and apparently just let him do whatever the fuck he wanted to, because there is some shit going on in there that I'm just like, I don't know why. Like, if there had been an editor with power, they would have cut half of what I watched, because there's a lot of just kind of knocking around atmospheric dead space in that show. But anywho, that's 15 minutes worth of Twin Peaks talk.
Twin Peaks.
Yep. Also, that Nun documentary is really depressing. I wouldn't recommend watching that unless you just.
Also, I will say Twin Peaks. I want to say it's the first season has one of something that Dale Cooper said, the Agent Cooper says.
Yeah.
That is, I've taken to heart with my life, and it's very true.
Okay.
Which is every day, no matter how big or how small, give yourself the tiny gift. Give yourself the gift, whether it's a nice cup of coffee, a nice slice of pie. Whether it's, just sitting in a room, silence with, just give yourself a little gift to yourself.
Okay.
That's literally one of my favorite things that character's ever said, and I take it to heart, and it really does.
Good life
help.
advice. All right. Well, I'll tell you what gifts I've gotten today, and that's Ubisoft gave me the gift of the trailer for Far Cry 5 isn't coming out until the day this podcast releases.
They gave you a trailer to announce the trailer.
Jesus, God, Lord in heaven.
Trailer culture.
Yeah. You know what I don't like? I don't like the way that they now, like when I click on the trailer, the first 10 seconds of the trailer is like a trailer for the trailer.
Yeah.
You see this shit?
Yeah.
I mean, like I watched... I had to see how stupid it was, so I watched the trailer for the Emoji Movie, which doesn't look super terrible, but whatever. But like, yeah, it's really disconcerting because it starts with this like quick flash 5 seconds of like what's in the trailer. I'm like, bitch, I'm watching it. I hit play on the trailer. I wonder if that's so that when you have the ability to skip a video, if they're trying to entice you to watch the video in the first 5. God damn, fuck you. What have you done, YouTube? This is horrible. Anyway, Far Cry 5 has been announced.
Yes.
For realsies. We got a trailer, and apparently we're leaving the jungle behind, and we're going to Montana. And we've got what appears to be, so there's a trailer. It's just got a lot of like beautiful vistas. This is the teaser. By the time this comes out, you guys will have seen the full trailer. So and then there's like somebody ringing a bell in a church with some dude's head. And it says, "Welcome to Hope County, Montana." And then we've got a piece of art where it's like kind of a Last Supper thing with what looks like a crazy
militia, Christian cult, Christian militia.
Like reverend type of looking guy.
There's a dude in the corner that looks like you.
There's a guy in the corner that looks an awful lot like Jeff with the shaved head, and it's just yeah.
I figured you saw that.
Yeah, well, somebody tagged me in it.
I know that person did.
Oh, jeez.
There's the person down at the table that has the word sinner written across their back.
Yeah, there's a wolf with a cross on its head.
Yeah,
there's a lot of people with beards.
The flag, instead of stars, it's the Iron Cross.
No, I think it was just little like Christian crosses, right? Or like
it looks like a variation on the Iron Cross to me,
okay.
Which is the same. It's the same cross thing that's on the flags that are on the church.
Yeah. So from here we can make some. We also have a thing blowing up and some airplanes and such in the sky. So let's just take the most obvious. I mean, I feel like before we even see this trailer, let's take the most obvious interpretation here. there's going to be a new Far Cry game. It's going to be Colorado Americana with a crazy hillbilly religious cult that you're going to blow up in a variety of different ways, right? This is kind of more, I guess, like the Far Cry. They haven't really done much Americana.
No, the first one was an island. The second one was
Africa, right? And then the third one was, where was that? It was on a fictitious
that was with
island.
It was with what's his name?
Definition of insanity, asshole.
Yeah.
I hate that phrase so much. I hate it so much, John. And then 4 was Nepal with pagan men, and then
this is 5.
Okay, so they haven't done Americana before. Well, I mean, given the way that their games are set up, it seems like a pretty easy no-brainer, right? There's going to be like pickup trucks, there's going to be driving around in the mountains, there's going to be a bunch of different like crazy backwoods folks, and you're going to do missions for them, and you probably you were sent in by the CIA to infiltrate this.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. Like if it's something where your like family was from that town and they were maybe part of that cult.
Yeah.
And you've left and now you become a cop or something, and now you have to go back in undercover or something like that.
It'll be something like that.
Yeah, something. Yeah. But I mean, as far as like weapons that are on the poster, I mean, there's guns, there's a bow and arrow, there's all the typical stuff you expect to see in a Far Cry game.
Yeah, which I mean, it totally makes sense for this. The only thing that I was kind of curious about is whether I don't really know the right way to phrase this, John. Whether this is going to be like really insulting to people who live in kind of rural areas, like, because if the depiction is that, like, Far Cry previously has been set in other countries, and like, what Far Cry 3 was all a bunch of pirates and then like the indigenous folks and etc. But I don't know, like, I feel like right now, I don't want to divert too far, but just to dip a brief toe in, there seems to be a lot of friction these days between the kind of rural communities in the United States and the urban communities in the United States, and I can see how, having a game that depicts like a bunch of crazy rednecks with guns and then you got to go shoot a bunch of crazy rednecks with guns. And
I think, just based on the previous 2 Far Cry games, like not counting the original Far Cry or Far Cry 2,
right?
But 3 and 4, they actually did a decent job of showing, that, these are clearly the bad guys. But that's not everyone in this area.
Right.
There are these people who are actually just good people, just living their life,
Yeah, there's always a third faction, the faction that you hook up with to fight against them.
That's either fighting against them, and even within that, they're the people that those factions are trying to protect, that are just living their life.
Okay.
Like, they do a decent job trying to explain that it's not everybody in that area.
Okay.
But that there is a large portion of it that, or a
Okay. No, I see that. I could see that.
So, I don't know.
I guess Primal didn't really have. I guess you had your people, right? Your village. I also wonder whether when this trailer finally comes out, whether this Jim Jones looking motherfucker is going to be like one of the. I thought that one of the things that really fell down in Far Cry Primal was that Far Cry 3 had Voss, and I wanted more Voss, and Far Cry 4 had Pagan Men, and I fucking love Pagan Men. Like, he was such a good bad guy from the moment that he stabbed that guy with a pen and took a selfie with you, and then just, like, fucking went off, took you, and then gave you dinner and was like, all right, now stay there for 15 minutes. And if you did that, then you won the game. That was one of my favorite parts about Far Cry 4 is that he tells you to stay put, and then some guy busts in, and he's like, we got to get out of here. No, you just get up from the table, and you can leave and start the game. But if you just sit there for like 10 minutes, he comes back in, and he's like, good, you waited. Come over here. And he like takes you to the very end of the game, and then like you win because you're there to get your mother's ashes or whatever, and he just gives them to you. It's great. But I'm wondering if this guy's going to be able to be charismatic enough, if they're going to be able to write him charismatic enough to be both a villain and somebody that you can.
They probably will. I mean, they did pretty okay with. I mean, the problem with Voss was that he wasn't
the main villain.
Yeah, and I think that's why they made Pagan Men the big baddie of the second game, is because they went, because we made the guy who was super charismatic not the main villain. He was, if anything, the mid-level boss.
Yeah, I think about 2/3 of the way through Far Cry 3, you end up Ice and Voss.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Which, and then sparked the internet fan theories that you're not actually playing as. Like, you're actually playing as Voss, not.
Oh, yeah.
That the kid is actually a figment of his imagination.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, hey, you know what? I've enjoyed all the Far Cry games that I've played so far. Primal, they all tend to be a little bit too long. Like there tends to be one too many missions and one too many sub things to the point where I get a little bit bored towards the end of the game and I start just like plowing, like you start out Far Cry and you're trying to be sneaky and stealthy and do stuff, and then by the end of the game I'm just like, fuck it, man, I'm gonna run in there and tell my jungle cat to eat a bunch of people. I'm gonna fucking stab a bunch of people with a tree trunk or rocket launcher.
I guess I would assume in this one, instead of like jungle cats and elephants, it's just gonna be wolves and
Far Cry Primal is the only one that gave you that weird control of like where you were at a Beastmaster thing.
Yeah, good point.
So I think they'll probably just take that out, even though that was cool.
Or maybe they'll do a Beastmaster thing with a wolf.
Or yeah, maybe it'll just be a wolf. But yeah, I don't know. It's also kind of interesting to see the series come to America essentially for the first time rather than sticking with foreign countries. So, but we'll see by the time that you're hearing this. You've had
a trailer.
You'll know
that
better.
We haven't seen as of recording.
Yep, you'll know better than we do. Sad news, everybody. Red Dead Redemption's been delayed until spring of 2018.
Not shocking.
Yeah, not a terrible blow. The thing is, I'm willing to wait however amount of time it takes Rockstar to put out a thing, because everything they put out so far has been really satisfactory to me. So if they want to take some extra time to polish Red Dead and put it out in 2018, hey, buddy, you take as long as you want.
Take as long as you need. I will say the screenshots they released of the game look really good.
Did you notice something? Did you notice what this horse looks like? There's one picture of a guy sitting on the back of a horse. And there's like a guy walking in front of him. That horse has an awful Kentucky Saddler color scheme to it. This is Greedo's father. I don't know, Bib Fortuna or Lando, whatever. We'll figure that out at one point. But hey, good news for everybody watching our Red Dead playthrough is we might actually get to finish Red Dead before Red Dead 2 comes out.
Yeah.
Of course, at strictly 30-minute episodes, it should only take us about a year and a half. So we might still not be done with it by the time Red Dead 2 comes out.
It's a good possibility.
We'll see. But yeah, the screenshots that they put out they look very pretty. And I do find it interesting that the one screenshot that we see that's kind of from the point of view of what might be a main character, like their face is occluded, so we can't really like make any assumptions. But yeah, if the game looks like this, fuck me, man.
Yeah, I agree.
It's good. I'll tell you what else looks good. Maybe, I don't know, it's a bad segue, but that Xbox One Game Pass thing launched today.
Yeah, well, technically it launches later, but if you had gold or something like that, you get a 2-week trial early or something.
Oh, okay. Is that, let's see.
Technically, I think it goes live on the 2nd.
You can check it out starting today. Gold members can try it out right now. Those without gold could try out the Game Pass June 1st.
Yeah, June 1st.
That'll be at the time of this
like a week.
Yeah, Thursday of this coming week. So what is this? Well, we talked about this when they first announced it.
Yeah.
$10 a month gets you basically access to a library of Xbox One Xbox One and Xbox 360 backwards compatible titles.
Yeah.
Technically, there's up to 100 of them.
Yeah, they said that they'll add games as time goes on, that they may subtract some games, but... So...
John and I was very confused about this when I first got it, and fortunately, John helped me straighten this out, because I did the 14-day free trial on my Xbox One, and it showed me all the games, but like some of them had prices underneath them, and I was like, well, wait a minute, do I have to buy these games? And it turns out, no, you don't have to buy those games. Like, you get 20% off if you want to buy them forever in case they ever go off of the service, but...
Or if you cancel your service, so you can
cancel.
Yeah. Because so what it is a lot of people are wondering, like, what is it? Is it a streaming service? No, it's you're actually downloading the game to your hard drive.
Yep.
You get access to it. You can play it as long as you want for as long as your membership is active. If you cancel your membership, that game stops being playable.
Right.
That's it.
Now, here's a question. If you download the game and then they take the game off the service at the end of the month, is your only option then to buy it? To buy your way back into it?
I think so, yeah.
Because that seems like like if they say they're going to take games off of that.
Well, they said if I remember correctly, they said that it was going to be very rare that a game would come off.
Yeah.
But if it did come off, it would be most likely due like a rights issue kind of thing.
like Alan Wake on the
Yeah.
PC type of thing. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, if you have an Xbox One, it seems like kind of. I mean, okay, you were saying how you've already got most of the things.
Yeah,
that are on
like
the list.
I actually was looking at the list the other day, and I'm like, I got that, I own that. Like literally, I went through like I want to say like 50 of the games. I'm like, I own all of these either through Games with Gold or from just buying them normally.
Mhm.
So this service doesn't really do anything for me.
I think it'll be interesting to watch what gets added. Like if they keep it up and they keep a huge back catalog, then $10 a month is not a hefty price to pay for access to that back catalog.
I agree.
Especially when there's a lot of stuff later like Halo 5 and Saints Row 4 and Gears of War 3 on the 360. A lot of the backwards compatibility stuff is on there, which is cool because it means that like if you switch from a PS3 to an Xbox One for some reason, that I know some people probably did that, you get access to a bunch of older stuff. You get access to a bunch of classics.
It really feels like this is a service designed for someone who did not own who's just buying an Xbox One for the first time.
Yeah.
And has not been signed up with Games with Gold or has not been downloading or claiming the games with their Games with Gold.
Right.
This seems like a way for them to get access to this huge back catalog for $10 a month of games that they would maybe not have played before.
It also makes a lot of sense if you're because Xbox Live is $50 a year, right?
Yeah.
So this is an extra $120 on top of that. But you also get a 20% discount on a bunch of different stuff.
Yes.
So, like, if you're an active gamer and you have an Xbox One and you want to play the, 7th generation games, like, I like PlayStation quite a bit. PlayStation Now, to me, is not a great service.
I know a lot of people who don't like it.
I've kept trying to use it, and I just don't like it. Like, I'd rather just download a game. And I realize, I specifically have talked on the show about why that's not possible. It's because the PS3 had the dumb cell structure, and you can't emulate that without a shitload of hardware. But if you got an Xbox One, I don't know. This seems kind of like a no-brainer if you're buying games because you get a discount on games. It's $10 a month, which is not all that much. You could probably make up with a discount on 2 games.
Yeah.
So it seems like a good service. If you're skeptical, I'd say maybe wait for a few months and see if they add what they add. Because if they if it's going to be a real anemic choice catalog, then it may not be worth it. But.
Yeah, I mean, I know some of the ones that they're like featuring, like the big titles that they're kind of saying like, oh, this is what you want, like our Halo 5, Lego Batman the video game, NBA 2K16,
right,
Payday 2, BioShock Infinite, Saints Row 4, Re-Elected Edition, Mega Man Legacy Collection. XCOM.
Oh, Sunset Overdrive's on there?
Yeah, Sunset Overdrive is another title. They also have a lot of ID at Xbox games on there.
Yeah, like the Swapper.
The Swapper, Layers of Fear, Roundabout, Ali, IDARB. Just they have a bunch of different games on there.
Yeah, looks like both of the
Super Time Force,
Viva Pinatas from the 360 are available on there.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, like at this point, it seems like go check it out. It doesn't seem like a bad value proposition if you're the sort of person who doesn't just play every single brand new game that comes out. And
someone like you or even like me, this may not be something that we're all too interested in because we either own all these games through buying them or we own them through, through the Games with Gold or whatnot. But there's definitely, if you've never used those, it's definitely worth checking out, I think.
Yeah. Plus, if they keep the 14-day free trial, you can always look at it and then cancel it if it's not for you. So, I'll tell you what else is not for me, John.
Oh, what's not for you?
That was that stupid website that Destiny tried to get me to go to see all the lore in Destiny. Remember that?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Destiny 2 is not going to have it.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. I love how they say, this is a quote from Mark Noseworthy in Game Informer. There is no grimoire on the website in Destiny 2, but in no way is it our intent to get rid of the deep lore in the game. We just want to put it in the game. We want to tell the story of the places. We want to flesh out the story of the world. A lot of stuff that was in the grimoire before, we want regular people to just play and encounter in the game. For instance, after playing for hours in the European Dead Zone, they could tell you what happened there. Well, what a revolutionary fucking concept, Mark. I should have had that ready. Like, oh shit, put the story in the game. Wow, you're really pushing the envelope of what nobody's ever thought of before. Fuck, man. Yeah. I wish that they would go back and patch the story into Destiny 1 so that I could get more story out of that.
Hell, I wasn't even like saying, hey, don't, you know, I'm not even upset that I have to read. Just put it in the fucking game. Don't make me go to a third-party website to read all your fucking shit.
Yep, put it in a codex. Let me open the codex. Let me open the, you got 6 billion menus in that fucking game. Let me tab over to codex and read all about the fucking whatever, the Jack Weasels or whatever the names of the, who was it?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't play that game.
The Cabal.
I got
codex.
bored through I played the betas and the open betas, and I was not like,
Cartel.
I was like, I don't like this.
Something like that. The Vex. Show me a bunch of Vex stuff. Yeah, I watched one of the stripes.
Very vexing.
Yes, they are. It was like, I don't know who made this decision where you're fighting a bunch of guys, you're fighting the Fallen, right? In the beginning of the game, the guys with the 4 arms, right? And then like a little bit into the game, these robots just start teleporting in, and they're all wearing like Roman centurion looking. No, wait, those are the Cabal. The Vex show up, and they're just like, oh, and if you shoot their heads off, then they get more powerful, so you got to aim for body shots. And it's like, okay, but who the fuck are they? What the fuck are they doing? Like, they talk a little bit about what they're doing, but like, so yes, thank you, Mark, for fucking making the decision to put the game story inside of the video game instead of making me go to a website, because that was just frankly some horse shit, and I'm glad that it's not there anymore. Actually, the more I see about Destiny 2, the more it looks like it could be that they're really straightening out, smoothing over the rough edges, learning from what happened in the first one, and make a game that could be really excellent.
Make the game that Destiny 1 should have been.
Yeah. I think of it as an Assassin's Creed 2 situation, right? Where they made the game, they had a bunch of ideas, they did those ideas, and then afterwards they were like, oh, okay, well, we learned everything that was wrong with those ideas. Let's fix that in the second game. Segue, Dragon Age.
It's a good segue.
Yeah, there was 3 of them. One of the writers for Dragon Age, Alexis Kennedy, who also created Sunless Sea and worked on a text-based browser game for Dragon Age, says there's some new Dragon Age content coming.
Yeah, well, I think this is the first Dragon Age game he's working on.
Well, he worked on this is a text-based adventure, but he put this out there, and then apparently he clarified on his Twitter saying, all I've said is that there's something in the Dragon Age franchise. It could be a spin-off or late DLC or a dragon breeding program. All right, great. But more Dragon Age for those of you who are interested in Dragon Age. One person actually, when we were asking for ideas for our new sequential, wrote in and was like, you should play the DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition, because apparently there's one that's like a standalone that doesn't have to deal with the main storyline. It's like a spin-off story that's like way better, kind of like what was it, BioShock 2?
Minerva's Den,
yeah, type of thing. But yeah, congratulations. It's nice to see that they're putting Mass Effect on hold and continuing with fucking Dragon Age.
Whatever other game the A-Team is working on.
Yeah, I've never really cared for Dragon Age all that much, but hey, there's some new stuff coming for Dragon Age. Let's talk about some trailers.
Yeah, let's do it.
There were a few this week. One was for Gwent, the card game from The Witcher 3 that's getting spun off into its own thing. It's in open beta right now. You're probably not going to see us play Gwent on Super Awesome Video Game Show, because we've already played a card game on there, and while it was fine, I don't think neither John nor myself really have any real great love for card games.
I mean, I play a lot of. I still play Elder Scrolls Online, or the Elder Scrolls card game.
Oh, do you? Okay.
I play it on my tablet.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never played Witcher 3, and I have no knowledge of Gwent. And you've told me that Gwent wasn't really all that fun. So
well, okay, but let's be honest there. It wasn't really super fun to me, but I don't fucking like card games all that much.
Oh, so I love card games.
Like, you might like it. You might go download that beta and check it out. In fact, I hear that if you download, there's another story that I didn't pull up, but I think that if you download it on Good Old Games, they'll actually give you a free copy of The Witcher 2.
Yeah.
On Good Old Games if you do a little thing. But this little cinematic trailer is pretty nice. It's The Witcher.
Yeah, it's cute.
Geralt and what's her face playing Gwent. And then the Nilfgaardians come in and they just fucking torch them up. And there's all these like, it's a nice little trailer. And if you're into card games, I mean, Gwent isn't bad. It's just.
Well, I mean, I know people who like stopped playing, like Witcher, but only played Gwent inside the game.
That's fucking crazy talk, man. That's the ramblings of an insane lunatic.
I'm just saying, I know people who did that.
Hey, you know what? I'm not saying that you didn't. I'm just saying that those are the ramblings of a crazy person. Those like the people who what was the card game in Final Fantasy VIII where you could walk up to anybody and you could play that card game?
Yeah, I don't remember that.
I fell down that hole a little bit. I fell down that rabbit hole a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. It looks good. If you have any interest in Gwent, I mean, it's basically just like they just pulled the card game out of The Witcher.
Yeah.
So, whatevskis. Next up, there's a new trailer for Lawbreakers. And this is this is like a cinematic trailer.
Yeah.
That really makes it look like if I didn't already know what Lawbreakers was, I would think that this was the trailer for a single-player game. Like I'm getting a real kind of what was that thing that Fuse was before it was Fuse? Kind of thing about this. About it's a bunch of guys and they're stealing a thing and they're a bunch of crazy robots and there's a lot of action. It's a really good trailer. Like it's a real fantastic trailer, but the fact that it looks like a single player game, like you see some of the characters shooting what look like NPCs, and you pointed out that there is one really kind of interesting thing going on here where the music changes.
Oh yeah, so they're playing Spirits in the Sky.
Yeah,
like that's the song that's playing during this whole thing.
Yeah,
but every time a character shows up, it changes the genre of music of the cover.
Yeah,
like it starts off as the regular Spirits in the Sky, and then it shows the robot guy, and suddenly it turns into like this weird like techno dance mix version of it.
Yeah,
and then like this this other person kind of comes in. It's kind of a little pop rocky.
Yeah,
and then like these two other characters show up, and suddenly it becomes a hip hop thing, and then there's like a screamo version, like scream metal version of it. Then there's a fucking opera.
yeah, it's pretty cool. And with this comes the announcement that Lawbreakers is going to be on the PS4.
Yes.
So great. That's kind of where I would like to play Lawbreakers.
That's actually something that you and I said that, like, man, this is actually a lot of fun. If it was on a console, we would totally play this.
I can't be asked around with playing an online first-person shooter against a bunch of people with mice and keyboards, and I want to play with the filthy noobs with the gamepad on the console.
I will say it's interesting because on the trailer it says PS4 Pro.
Yeah, I think that's just saying that there's pro enhanced content.
Okay.
But it'll also run on a standard PS4. Okay. I don't think we've because there's also just a straight up PS4 logo.
Right.
So yeah, but that's cool. It's gonna be $30. It's supposed to be coming out later this year for both. I think that Lawbreakers was fun when we played it. It just I wasn't any good at it, and I felt like that was because I was playing with people who play a lot of online FPSs with a mouse and a keyboard.
Yeah.
Like I could see myself being perfectly content playing on a console where everybody's using sticks and you don't have to aim as properly and blah 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 blah. So, but yeah, I'm really hoping that Lawbreakers works because I want Cliffy B to make a bunch of money and keep just doing like fucking whatever he wants to instead of getting chained into stuff. So, and our last trailer is the Tekken 7 story trailer. Tekken 7 is coming out pretty soon. There really isn't much to this outside of a bunch of cryptic narration. Heihachi and Keiuza are fighting each other again in a volcano again, and they're punching lava yet again. I kind of wish that this franchise would start making somebody else the main character, like make Jack the main character.
I will say it's the cryptic narration kind of makes it out to be like this will be like one, like after this they're moving on from Heihachi and Kazuya or whatever.
I don't think that's possible. They're like the Ken and Ryu of this franchise.
True. It is true.
How are you going to kill off? I tell you what. They got if this what we're seeing in this trailer is like an indication of how good the cutscenes in this game look. If they write a story, which Tekken has had a lot of story, if they write a story, and at the end of that story, if Keiuza, I hope that's his name, that's Keiuza, right? Jin is his son, That's Kaiusa, and then Heihachi. And then we had Heihachi's dad that was like the big demon guy, but that was in like Tekken 6 or 5.
Yeah.
God damn, I know shit about Tekken. What the fuck? But if Heihachi gets killed at the end of this game, like once and for all, that could possibly bring a slight amount of moisture to my eye because he's been around.
What if it's the other way around? What if it's Kazuya?
I don't care. I don't care about that. Heihachi's like they're like, oh, I'm so powerful, Akuma guy. I don't want him to win. I want the kid to win.
All right.
And Jin's a big demon ass motherfucker as well. Kyuza, he's just got like that red eye, and he's got a corporation and a bunch of Tekkens all over. It's Tekken and the Tekkens all over the place. But I don't know. This is a fun little trailer. I mean, it's mostly just CGI.
Yeah.
But actually, it's all.
It's even got Akuma in it. So.
Yeah. But yeah. Let's start. Kill Heihachi. Everybody, kill Heihachi. Come on, do it. All right, let's wrap up the rest of this. Fuck. God damn it. I'm trying to keep these shorter, but it's never working. Platinum Games working on something new.
Cool.
It is at current, quote, formless and shapeless. But apparently, after Nier Automata's success and critical acclaim, they're working on some. Oh, and how well both Bayonetta and Vanquish on the PC have been performing, or how Bayonetta performed and how Vanquish is expected to perform given the amount of buzz around it.
Yeah.
Platinum's doing good this year. I feel like everybody's forgotten about Scalebound. I still want to know there's some stuff that happens in the gaming industry where I'm just like, what actually happened over there? What the fuck?
Yeah.
They just like, because they seem to have a pretty fair amount of that game rocking and rolling. Maybe it was too heavily multiplayer focused, and they were just like, our focus groups say that people don't want multiplayer.
Yeah, it's possible.
But yeah. So anyway, what would you like to see? Let's do some real Hail Mary speculation pie in the sky. What Platinum Games game would you like to see in a sequel to?
Vanquish
2?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd say that. I don't think they could do. I wonder if Nintendo retains any kind of rights to Bayonetta, because with Bayonetta 2 on the Wii U, I don't feel like another Bayonetta. I guess they could make another one that just ignores that story. That was kind of a weird side story anyway. I gotta go with Bayonetta. Or Wonderful 101. They call it the Wonderful 102.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't really care for that game.
I liked it. I thought it was fun.
Anyway. Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen is coming to the PS4 and the Xbox One.
That game's still getting deals.
Yep. Well, it was on the Xbox 360 and the PS3. Then they brought it to the PC. Or then they put out the DLC. Then they brought it to the PC with the DLC. Now it's coming on the Xbox One and the PS4. As a quick reminder, I think we got a few dojos on that. That game's actually worth playing.
Yeah, it's Grandma Throwing Simulator 2016.
Yep. It's weird. It's very strange. It's kind of nice in its own regard. It actually has that thing, though, where you can flip-flop classes at will, so you can go try out a new class if you feel like the one that you picked at the beginning isn't working for you. But it's kind of got some Dark Souls tendencies, but it's really its own game. Like, it's not leaning on that really all that much. And the final 3 stories, so that's a good one, but the final 3 stories that we have, John, are kind of bummers. It's a little bit of a bummer, but it's all right. We're not ending the whole show on a bummer, just a slight bummer.
Okay.
All right. So first up, apparently they're rebooting the Resident Evil
Of course
franchise.
they are. The last movie that just came out was the final one.
Right.
So now they've got to start over from scratch.
Right.
Hopefully they give it to someone who actually understands the fucking video games.
Here's a question. Do you think you can make a good Resident Evil video game? Do you think that, or video game, movie? Do you think you can make a good Resident Evil movie?
Yeah.
Like one that has...
Here's the thing. I actually thought the first one wasn't bad. I liked the first one.
Sure.
Is the second one on that kind of went off the rails.
I think that the problem with the first one, though, was that they went from the mansion to the facility way too fast. That you need to have that... Because, I feel like one of the reasons that the first Resident Evil worked so well was because you started as a spooky haunted house. What, there's zombies? What? And then, suddenly at the end of the game, you're going to the basement of this mansion and it's just fucking like a lab and shit. Like it's all
well. It also, I thought it was funny because when I first heard about the movie, is that they weren't trying to retell the first game. Instead, they were trying to tell around the first game, so that the elements so that technically, if you actually pay attention to the movie or timeline wise, the things that happen in the first game are happening concurrently.
Oh, okay.
Like at the same time, like while she's down in the catacombs, they're in the mansion, and like that someone explained that to me, and like in an interview, I read something that someone saying that's how it was intended.
If it was supposed to be in the same universe, why is her acting so much better than the rest?
Ha 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 ha! But that with the second one, they threw that idea out the window,
right?
And so they just said, "Fuck it, we're doing our own thing." And then they were like, "But we're still going to try to adhere to the games." And then with the third one, they just went, "Fuck it, we're just Mila Jovovich simulator."
I wonder, like, okay, let's say you were going to make Resident Evil. Let's say we're going to take like Resident Evil 4 and make it into a movie, right? That's pretty standard.
Yeah,
Secret Service agent trying to rescue the president's daughter, kidnapped in this weird town. And
see, I don't think they would do that. I think it's going to end up being an outbreak scenario. It's going to be a zombie thing. It's going to be they're gonna do. I mean, shit. They could probably even do Resident Evil 7. The story for Resident Evil 7, sort of, make it.
I think the thing is that can you? So I'm cribbing a little bit from Jim Sterling, but Jim Sterling has this wonderful video that he did about the Resident Evil franchise, where he talks about how the problem with Resident Evil 5 and 6 was that they were too self-serious, and that Resident Evil 4 had enough kind of lighthearted, jokey stuff in it to keep it from being too just like, "Urgh!" And so that like gave you a little bit more kind of goofy fun and made it more like a B-movie.
I'll even say 7 even has some goofy fun in it too. 7. There's some goofiness in it.
Okay, fair
like
enough.
it's dark goofy, but it's goofy.
So, but I wonder if some of that, like I think about Resident Evil 4, and then I'm like, but they would never leave the goofiness in it. Plus, the plot of 4 is way too convoluted. That's the other problem, is that the plot of so many of these are way too convoluted for like a.
That's why it's either just going to be. They're either going to do a thing where they just call it Resident Evil and just have it be its own thing.
Sure.
Or they're going to base it off the first game.
You know what they could do is they've never actually done the Outbreak movie, like the World War Z. Like we're watching the outbreak happen.
So basically 2.
Sort of, but in 2, like when we start in 2, like to the game, and I thought into the movie, the Raccoon City's already trashed.
Yeah, true.
Good so point. We're not seeing like people trying to get through the initial outbreak, as opposed to there's already a bunch of zombies walking around. I don't know. Hopefully it'll be better. I think that the Resident Evil movies are like, if you just turn your fucking brain off, you can watch them all right and go, Mila Jovovich is pretty. That motorcycle did a flip. What the fuck ever? You know, she's got a triple-barreled shotgun. Whatever. I don't care. Okay, well, that one wasn't as much of a bummer, but this one is. So, unfortunately, IO is laying people off after the whole...
Well, they've got to.
Yeah, I know.
If they want to stay afloat.
Fucking Square Enix, man. I think it was after I first talked about the fact that they were selling off IO, that I remembered that Square Enix was the same company where the fucking CEO stepped down because Tomb Raider didn't sell like Call of Duty. Like the Tomb Raider remake only sold like 2.5 million copies and didn't sell like 30 or whatever, and he was just like, oh, well, our projections were much higher, and this has been a disgrace. And
it was the thing where it actually sold super well, but was like, they were like, yeah, it was a failure financially.
Right.
You made money on it.
Oh, in the previous Hitman game, too.
Yeah.
That was also rolled into him, like, stepping down in disgrace, like, resigning because those games, because they had these fucking stupid projections for these games, and when they didn't sell that well, they were just like, we expected to sell way more than that, which kind of sucks because...
We sold 1.6 billion copies, or million copies. We expected to sell 1.6 billion copies.
Right.
It's like, no.
I feel like they're like Disney, except they have a much slower binge and purge cycle of like hiring developers, letting them do something interesting, publishing it, then having no fucking clue what to do with it, and having it not meet their outrageous demands, and then like selling those studios or shuttering those studios off and being like, no, we're just going to focus on this thing. So that sucks. I really hope that IO gets bought, and I hope they get bought soon, and I hope they get bought by somebody who's going to let them finish Hitman, because fucking Hitman. And last but certainly not least, you know, I like to put these things on the podcast, even though I would never ever get them. There's a Bloodborne statue, John.
Yeah,
it's fucking gorgeous. It's got a hunter. He's got a little He's got the axe from the game, and it's in one of the villagers. And it's got little street posts, and he's got like blood and all the clothes and everything.
Is it like $700?
No, it's like $800 actually.
Oh, okay. Wow.
And I'm like, oh man, I want this so bad, but it's $800. Do you know what? I buy a PlayStation VR for $800. I buy a fucking 2 months worth of game, 6 months, 5 months worth of games for $800. Can't spend $800 on a fucking one statue.
I wish I had $800 right now. That would actually help a lot with the idea of the fact that I'm going to be moving soon.
Well, you can just sell off the Bloodborne statue that you bought.
But I don't own a Bloodborne statue because I can't afford it.
Sell off that Solaire custom 14-inch statue that you bought that we looked at that one time.
No.
You're like, no, I keep that to taunt you because I own it and I don't even care about Dark Souls.
Exactly. You understand my thought process now.
Yeah, but oh man, this is such a beautiful one. This is such a beautiful little thing. Every so often people put something out like this and I'm just like, God damn, that looks fucking just gorgeous. Oh, it looks like you can actually change up the weapon a little bit because there's one this is like, that's not the same axe as that. So, yeah. Oh, yeah. You could put a different weapon. And do they have any different guns? No, it's okay. Anyway, this is fucking beautiful. Also, if like I know that this isn't a thing that's going to happen, but if there's some Mr. Moneybags, Dr. Moneytron out there listening to this, and you're like, I'm going to buy Jeff that $800 statue for Christmas. Do not do it. Give me $800. I have other things that need $800 way more than Bloodborne statues. And with that, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about The Surge, and we are going to answer questions from the audience. So stick around, everybody. We'll see you in a minute. And we're back.
All right.
You ready, John?
Sure.
You ready for more podcasts?
Yeah.
More Rage Select podcasts? Right
of course.
Here
Why wouldn't I be ready?
Okay. Good. Excellent.
Stay ready.
You're always ready.
I don't get ready. I stay ready.
That's John's secret, everybody, is he's always ready for the podcast. Which after doing roughly like half of them, half of all of them.
I don't know if I've done half of them, but
so mail@ragesite.com is the email address. Before we talk about emails, and we actually had we had not that many, and I asked for kind of a last second. We got some good questions, so I'd like to talk real briefly about The Surge. You and I played it for the dojo.
Yes, we did.
I don't know that game is for me, which is kind of a weird first. So for anybody who doesn't know, this isn't a full review, but The Surge is basically a sci-fi version of Dark Souls, sort of. It's by Deck 13, the same people who made Lords of the Fallen. And they appear to have learned a few things from the Lords of the Fallen experience. Specifically, the game is not. It's still a third person kind of action combat thing where blocking and dodging and parrying and this kind of Souls style is necessary to fight. But what they've really done is, I don't know if you remember in Lords of the Fallen, but they kind of had all the same kind of like stat bonuses and that kind of stuff. That's not in this game. Instead, what you have is when you level up, you have like a power meter, and every thing that you equip, every piece of armor, and then the various kind of enhancements, which are like your healing items, or you have some stuff that'll give you kind of different. What it kind of goes for magic in this game.
Yeah.
Every one of those takes up a piece of your power meter.
Okay.
So at any point in time, you can just switch. Like if you're using light armor and a light weapon and you want to just go to heavy armor, all you have to do is make sure that whatever you're equipping stays within that range. And so in the beginning of the game, you may be forced to do you might be forced to switch between like having more esoteric healing modules or being able to wear heavy armor and use a heavy weapon. And then the way that the weapons work is basically as you use a weapon, you gain proficiency in that type of weapon, and then each individual weapon has like a rating for how much that proficiency goes towards your combat multiplier. So, right, if you've been using the chainsaw sword the whole time, the more you use it, the better it becomes. There's also an upgrade system, which I think is really poorly thought out, because like you can target individual limbs in the game, and you can take those individual limbs. This is one of the actually interesting things about the game. There's a lot that I like about this game, is that you can, as you attack, you build up a power meter, and you can expend that power meter to use a small drone that will let you have like ranged attacks. You can use it as a healing substitute, or you can use it to target an individual limb on an enemy and then cut it off. So let's say that you're trying to upgrade your headgear piece, and you need a specific type of thing that comes off of headgear. You'll target the head. If the head is armored, like enemies have armored and unarmored pieces, and if you hit the unarmored pieces, you do a lot more damage. But if you hit the armored pieces, you build up your power to the point where you can then like chop the guy's head off, and then you can take that head and you can take it back to your base, and you can turn it into scrap that you can use to upgrade your headpiece. Right? This is all really, really easy. There's a problem in the fact that like all of the enemies in a level, the levels as they go forward tend to have like the level that I'm on currently has a bunch of different enemies that are all give you the Mark 2 or 3 variant of the scrap that you need to scrap is the currency, so I shouldn't say use scrap, but use the upgrade materials you need to upgrade, say, a helmet. So I just got in the game, I just got to this part of the level where I got a blueprint for a new helmet.
Okay.
And so if you don't have a piece of equipment and you cut it off of an enemy, the first time you cut it off, you also get a blueprint to be able to manufacture that. But in order to be able to manufacture that, I need like the Mark 1 helmet shit. But the level that I'm in, I'm currently trapped in. I can't leave. Everybody has Mark 3 helmets on, so I can't manufacture this helmet that I would really like that seems to be an upgrade. Also, as near as I can tell, you take a train between different areas.
Yeah.
And like, let's say you're in the third area and you want to get back to the first area, you have to take the train from the third area to the second area, and then you have to go back to the train that goes from the second area to the first area. There's a lot of backtracking. That shit really could have been fixed by just having the train give you an option about like which area do you want to go to. But the main thing that I'm having difficulty with, I like a hell of a lot about this game, except for the difficulty.
So your big difficulty with the game is the difficulty.
That's true. Well said. Well said. Just like Neo, this game is hard as balls. Like, it's just really hard, and it's really leaning into the like, oh, you're gonna die, this game is so hard thing that like I hate about Souls. Because whenever you go online and you're like, hey, I'm having a lot of trouble, John, let's all say it together. What's the response that you're going to get from the community?
Happy birthday.
No.
Oh.
Get good, noob. Yeah. Like even at this point in the game, most of the enemies will kill me in like 2 shots, no matter what I'm wearing, no matter how I'm doing stuff. The blocking mechanic, like you have to stand still to block, and then the way when you hold down the block button, it actually like decreases your stamina. So you can't just like stand there with your block up and then play in a more defensive fashion. I can see where people who are really into the hard Souls thing, the people that really like to play, you know, when we did our original Dark Souls Super Awesome Video Game Show, the very first one, there was somebody in the comment section, this is long in the past, right, when we had a little bit more trolliness going on there, but there was someone in the comment section that was just like, Jeff, you fucking suck, you're a noob, you still use a shield in Dark Souls, and there's a lot of people, and even I got to the point, myself included, where the shield is like what you use at the beginning, and then later on, you're not blocking, you want to dodge more often. After Bloodborne, that kind of became part of my MO too, as I tried to dodge and do more of that stuff. But
don't want people thinking you're a scrub.
Well, you know, no scrubs. That's the Rage Select policy, right? No, that's not true. But the problem with this is the cost of failure is so high in the game because every area only has one quote bonfire. There are medical bays here, and so as you go through the level, it's a bunch of switchbacks that get you back to that medical bay faster. The problem is that when you're dealing with enemies where if you slip up, if you're not paying total attention, you get killed right away. There's a lot of backtracking back to the previous area, and the areas are so all this big technological place that like it sometimes gets really difficult to even realize like how far you've gotten, or is that a shortcut?
Well,
or like
case in point, when we actually played it on the dojo, there was that one point where we found a shortcut, but then didn't even realize how we found the shortcut.
Yeah.
Like we were like, wait, how did we get back here?
Yeah.
Like, okay, and then it took us a long time to figure out what we had done.
So I'll say that right now, one of the biggest problems that I have with the game is that a lot of my time in this game has just been spent backtracking to my corpse, because if I die, it's like even if I'm not even engaging people on the way and I'm just running back to do a corpse run, it still takes time, and that time feels wasted. Like I know that I'm comparing apples and oranges here, but by comparison, last night I was playing it and I just was really pissed off. I was really upset. It could also be because I'm trying to cut back on my smoking, and it could be that too, but I was just really upset. Then I put Injustice 2 in and decided to play some Multiverse, and I was just like, oh, right, this game is fun. And I
love Injustice 2.
Yeah, I really want to play it. And then, like, I put in Nier Automata, and I'm going through my second playthrough of that, and I was just like, even this, like, I feel like I'm making progress, and I'm doing stuff. The Surge just seems like it's constantly putting me back to square one. Like, to make progress is such a huge thing, and it's so tied into, I feel like, there's a part of the Souls community that just wants a game that's as hard as fucking balls. I'm not that guy. I like Souls for the story. I like Souls for the way that the combat works, but I like it when it's a little easy going with me, and then to let
fair
me...
but balanced.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Fox News.
Tough but fair.
I want the Fox News of Souls games.
Oh, God, no.
No. Like, even in Dark Souls 1, like, I feel like there's a place in Dark Souls 1 where you start and it's really hard, but then eventually, like, something unlocks in you, and you're just like, okay, I got this. This is more like Devil May Cry on hard mode in a Souls package, where it's like, if you fuck up, you're fucked up. And to the point where I've got so many healing items now, where at a certain point I had to just be like, I'm just going to stop specking for anything weird. I'm just going to basically load up on as many healing items as I can possibly put in my slots, right? It doesn't matter, because you get hit, and then you get hit a second time, and then you're fucking dead. Like, I don't even have time to hit the heal button before I'm dead. And it really upsets me, because I wanted to like Neo, and I just didn't really click with me. And I really wanted to like this game, and it's just not really clicking with me. So, I don't know. It also doesn't have, like, invasions or multiplayer or anything like that, as near as I can tell. And it's got no PvP, which is not a thing that I engage with. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just real strange. And I wanted to kind of know how the story ends. I don't like the bosses very much either. Like, they just tend to be these giant robots that will just do, it hit you one time and you lose 80% of your health. And so you got to, like, pop a healing item. And it just becomes attrition rather than learning the patterns in it.
Yeah.
There's a fine line between a boss where you walk in the first time. Like, to me, your 3 difficulty levels is you got your Goldilocks scenario, right? You get to a boss, they're too easy. You walk in, you fucking splatter the floor with the boss. Fuck it. They're too easy, you're done. There's bosses that are too hard where you walk in and you just get one-shotted and then you're fucking done. I like a boss where I have enough leeway to learn what I'm doing wrong and come back. So, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be coming back to the Surge, because I just don't think it's for me. But enough of that. Let's talk about some questions.
All right.
Ian writes in and says, hey, Jeff and John, have you ever disliked something enough to demonize it when other people brought it up? For context, I hated the live-action Ghost in the Shell and found other people's opinions far more lenient. When people brought up the movie and its beautiful imagery, I would then counter. I would bring up plot holes and basic story problems, as well as my issues with characters, all solely in reference to the movie, not even touching on the adaptation problems. After about a week or two, I was able to restrain myself when it came up. I got tired of being that person who essentially try and tell people why they should not like something. Once again, has something like this ever happened to you? From Ian. What do you think, John?
Oh, I'm sure.
As when I was younger, more so than now. I'm
sure I've done it a few times on this podcast.
Yeah, like what? I remember there's a podcast where you got like super. You got real hot about something.
I get issues. I take issues with mischaracterization of Superman.
Okay.
Also, Dark Knight Returns. The comic. And then I also hate Batman versus Superman. Yeah. And I don't hate Man of Steel, but I don't really like it either, because that goes back into that misunderstanding of the character of Superman. Yeah. Like, those are kind of hot buttons. Like, there's, what was it? Like, I had a guy at work who, like, likes to talk to me about comics. This is at an old job, but he likes to talk to me about comic stuff, and he brought up he's like, yeah, well, I always prefer the interpretation of Superman, the real interpretation of Superman, not this character they turn it into, the one that Kill Bill talks about in the movie Kill Bill. I'm like, no, fuck you. Go fuck yourself and die in a fire. That has never been Superman, you piece of shit. Kind of thing. So, yeah, there's been a few.
I feel like, so for me, I feel like it ends up being a different scenario, because I've gotten to the point where I will never try. I've been on the internet for long enough, and I've said things and gotten into fights with enough people that it's actually changed the way that I think about this particular topic. So now what it is that people is that somebody says, I don't jump into a conversation if somebody's like, oh man, that new Blade Runner movie looks so good. I really like Blade Runner. It's like my favorite movie of all time. What did you think about Blade Runner? And I'm just like, I don't like it quite as much as everybody else. I thought it was a good movie, but I think that it gets a little overhyped. And then they're like, what? And then they come at me and they're just like, what do you mean it's not the greatest movie of all time? Or like, Dark Knight Rises. How for like 2 years on Spill, it was like, fucking Jeff hates that movie. I'm like, I never said that. I just said that I don't think it's quite as brilliant as everybody else seems to think that it is. It didn't work for me on that level.
Yeah.
I thought it was a fine movie. I've watched it a whole bunch of times. I like Heath Ledger Joker. It's fine. But it's like, for me, it's the opposite, where it's not that, like, I don't get into conversations with people where I'm like, yeah, let me tell you why that's bad. Except sometimes about Superman, because I feel real strongly. But
yeah,
more
Batman
often,
versus Superman is probably the only movie I can think of where I was like, you like that movie? Fuck you. You're wrong. Here's why you're wrong.
I feel like we were talking, like Amanda and I talked, it might have been on one of the videos we recorded this week about Predators, and how I was like, I don't like that movie. And people were like, and I can tell you why I didn't like it, because I like to sit down and think about why I didn't like a thing. But in general, I can't. There's not many times where if somebody else is going on lovingly about a thing, unless they ask my opinion, where I'm just
let me preface that. I don't just like someone mentioned Batman or Superman, fuck them. No, I don't do that. If they ask me my opinion, I was like, it's fucking garbage.
Yeah,
the movie's fucking shit, and this is why.
Yeah,
and a lot of people will even go, oh, John, you just hate that because the bandwagon of everyone hates it. It's like, no, all the hate that movie got was totally 100% deserved. Go fuck yourself.
Yeah, I mean, and there's been plenty of stuff like that over the years, where people just can't believe that you don't like a thing as much as you like it, or haven't seen a thing. That's another big one that comes up in my world, because I've played a lot more video games than I've seen movies. I like movies, but video games are a priority in my life, and so people are like, oh, I can't believe you've never seen American Werewolf in London. And I'm just like, well, when it came out, I was young and I didn't watch it, and then I never went back to it because of fucking playing video games.
Well, I'm always ashamed when there are certain movies that I haven't seen. Like, I'm still, to a degree, very ashamed that I haven't seen The Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield one, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange, good.
And there's one other movie that I'm like really ashamed that I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't watched. Like, there are movies that I want to see. I haven't watched Get Out yet. I really wish I'd watched that. I really want to watch it. I know it comes out on DVD soon. But
I tried watching that new Triple X movie.
Oh God, I want to see that so bad. And I'm not ashamed that I haven't seen that one, but I want to watch it.
My brain just started fucking off halfway through that. I was just like,
because I love the first Triple X movie.
Oh man, I was just like, I'm gonna play some Mario Kart while I watch this. And then I was just like, what? And then they're having like these $1 million fight scenes where everything is blowing up, and I'm just like, fucking Mario Kart, man. That's what I'm talking about. But yeah, to sum up, Ian, in the past, especially before I started doing anything on the internet, yes, I would jump on people about like, I can't believe you. But the more that I saw, the more that I had, that people would jump on me about liking stuff, especially more so when we used to do reviews on both Spill and here, and people would really, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, they just personally offended. I can't believe you like that. It really, to me, tempered my own idea about just jumping down somebody's throat about, like, hey, let me tell you, Deadpool's the worst movie I've ever seen. Let me explain to you why that is, or whatever. Yeah. I like Deadpool. I like the Deadpool movie, by the way. That was just an example.
Well, actually, it was funny. What was it, on the Facebook timeline, like this, on this day kind of thing. I was looking at the other day, and the series finale for Lost came up, and I just remember back when the series finale for Lost happened, like everyone was fucking hating on it, like this is the worst thing in the history of TV ever, and my reaction was, I liked it. Like, I was like, I like the ending of I thought it was a good ending. And I'm like, and then like there was some guy who I'm not actually friends with on Facebook anymore. I actually think it was this instance that made me unfriend him. Where he just came in and goes, what the fuck are you talking about? This is wrong, and this is why you're a fucking dipshit, piece of shit garbage. And I'm like, whoa, dude, you didn't like it. I get it. I liked it. Here's why I liked it. Does it have its problems? Yes. But here are the reasons why. Well, I didn't know. And he basically like tried to tear my arguments apart about how I was wrong. And it's like, well, go fuck yourself. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
And I was just looking at it, I just saw it, and I started laughing because I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that argument. Like, literally, I was just like, he's like, I think it's a piece of garbage. It's like, well, that's just your, it's like, well, that's your opinion. Obviously, I feel different. It's like, no, it's not my opinion. It's a fucking fact. So go fuck yourself if you don't believe my fact.
It's a fact. I like that. Yeah. We had a thing. I can't count the number of times in my life that people have tried to logic me into either liking or disliking a thing that I either like or dislike, where I'm like, I don't know. I like watching giant robots punch each other, so the Transformers movie never bothered me that much. And they're just like, no, let me explain to you. This is wrong. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, this is wrong. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, this is wrong. And I'm like, yeah. But I still like it. Like you, that's, and that's, I guess.
Or what was it? The one fan who tried to convince me and Amanda not like wrestling?
Oh, yeah. Yep. It's a thing.
I don't remember that guy's name anymore, but yeah, it was just.
I do. He was a problem for years. But the at the end of the day, the whole problem with this whole thing is the fact that liking or disliking something is emotional, not logical.
Yeah.
It's not like if it was logical, then movies would all be exactly the same because it'd be like, we figured it out. We've got the formula. It's like this, and then they say bitch, and then it's great, and everybody's like, yay. But it's not. It's totally subjective. I have a friend who thinks that the Steven Soderbergh Solaris movie with George Clooney was like one of the greatest movies that's ever been made in the history of mankind.
I've never seen that movie.
I think it's all right. It's slow. It's very slow and ponderous. I think it's a pretty good movie. But like, he wouldn't shut the fuck up about it to the point where I had to be like, no, dude, we watched it together and I told you that I liked it. And he would keep trying to explain to me why it was good. And I'm just like, no, I liked the movie. I'm not arguing with you.
It also reminds me of the friend who wouldn't shut up about Children of Men.
About what?
Children of Men.
Oh, yeah.
Like, same thing. Like, just argued it was the greatest movie in the history of mankind. And I'm just like, I don't want to see this movie anymore because of how much you're gushing about. Matter of fact, I'm going to buy it on DVD and never fucking watch it.
Yep. But then a lot of it also comes down to my own personal philosophy, which I don't really talk about a whole lot on this show. But there's one thing that I really, really thoroughly believe in, and that's that everybody has a tendency to try to make the world into it tries to make other human beings into copies of themselves. And you can see this happen all the time, where if you're sad and you tell a person, I'm sad because this bad thing happened to me, they'll be like, oh, well, when something similar happened to me and this is what I did to feel better. And they're trying to help, but what they're subtly doing is they're trying to they're like, you only really know about the world from your own perspective. And so the only way that you have to solve problems is through your own perspective, which if you can step away from yourself for a moment and realize that everybody's had vastly different lives with completely different experiences.
The hell you say.
Is ludicrous. But the thing is that people do it anyway. And I try these days, and a lot of this, again, is because I've been subjected to a lot of criticism of my own beliefs on the internet, and a lot of that, to me, is just looking at the way that people interact with each other. And so, in a lot of ways, you didn't like a thing, and your instinct when you don't like a thing is to get as many other people who don't like that same thing, and the people who do like it, to convince them not to like that thing, because that's validating to your own psyche, regardless of whether what you're saying is right or wrong.
And I'll admit, like, even the things that I dislike, like Batman versus Superman, if someone does like that movie, I don't care. Like, if you like it, you like it. It's that's like you said, liking and disliking is an
emotional thing.
It's an emotional thing.
Yeah.
It's I don't like it. I have my reasons for not liking it. If you were to ask me my reasons, not on this podcast or on this website, because you and I have gone to death. But if you were to ask me in person, I would explain to you, and I would tell you why I think the movie's fucking garbage and things like that. But if you like it, that's cool. There's some stuff that I like that I know other people think are fucking garbage. I can think of one movie off the top of my head that Jeff fucking hates that I like.
Probably.
Hudson Hawk.
Oh, yeah, I fucking loathe that movie.
Yeah, I love that movie to death.
Yep.
But I also realize
we could be friends, and every time that he brings up Hudson Hawk, I might say I don't like that movie, but I'm just like, no, John. Okay, the candy bar thing was stupid, and the singing the song thing was a fucking cartoon. What are you talking? You know, I don't.
And those were all the things I loved about the movie.
Right. People are illogical, and to put the final cliche thing, because a lot of this stuff we've said before, to put the final cliche thing on it, I think it's good, though, because I think that there's a lot of people out there that are just fucking, they can't stand it. If it's hard to live a lot of times in a world, especially these days with the politics and stuff, where people so vehemently feel differently than you, and that you just, it seems like a crazy person. But two quick things just to say before we wrap this question up is, one, I would like to say that I almost always I want to like stuff, right?
Yeah,
I
same here.
want there to be a good Batman and Superman movie.
Yeah.
I love Batman and Superman. I want there to be a good Predator movie, good Alien movie, a good fucking Fallout game or whatever, a good stuff. I want things to succeed because I want The Surge to be a really good game because I'd like nothing more.
The reason I go watch those movies or play those video games or read those comics or read those books or whatever, the reason I pick them up is because I want them to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I don't go to the movies and go, this movie's going to be fucking garbage. Now, mind you, there are instances where I will go see a movie that I know is quote-unquote bad for the purpose of it being bad.
Right.
Like, I went and saw, like, what was it, Meet the Spartans. It was a terrible fucking movie.
God.
I went and saw that with a bunch of friends because we knew it was going to be bad.
Right.
Like, I don't drink, but they were all getting fucking wasted in the theater. Like, we went to a special thing where we specifically went and saw it specifically just to see how bad that movie was.
Yeah.
We didn't have to pay money to see it, which was great.
Yeah.
There have been movies that I've gone to see. There have been movies I've gone to see. They're like, well, it's probably going to be bad, but I'm going to go see it anyways because I'm hoping it's good. I always hope that even if, like, I watched Batman versus Superman when it came out on DVD. Like, I didn't go see it in theater because I was like, that's going to be bad.
Yeah.
I can already tell I'm not going to like it. But I was like, but I'll wait for it to come out on DVD, and I hope to be proven wrong. I waited for the uncut director's cut edition of it, and I was like, all right, prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Please, for the love of God. Nope, you didn't.
Yeah. Also, it's I have one more thing to say, but that's actually before we move on, some of my other friends have talked about this, and I would like to reiterate this. Okay? I want to be real clear about this before we move on to the next thing. I don't know if you've heard this, but Zack Snyder recently had a horrible tragedy in his life.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
And I just like to say, all the bashing of Batman and Superman is nothing to bash.
There's no reason to celebrate him the reason he's leaving.
I'm not happy that something bad happened to Zack Snyder, in spite of how much I don't like those movies. So
yeah, I would not. What happened to him and his daughter? I would not wish that on anyone.
Yeah,
and I'm actually.
I'd rather have bad.
I'd rather have. I would rather have one. I would rather have Justice League be completed by Zack Snyder.
Yes.
Than for him not to complete it for this reason.
Yes.
Having also said that, I'm not really happy with the choice of who's replacing him, but that's beside the point.
Let's not even go in there. All right, let's jump to this next question. This one comes in from Ryan. Ryan says, "Greetings, Jeff and John. Ryan here with with a question for the podcast this week. Firstly, I want to say thank you, Jeff. After listening to you talk about the Star Trek series last week, I could say you piqued my interest, and I've started watching The Next Generation. So far, it hasn't disappointed, and the characters are quite interesting. If you started on season 1, you got nowhere to go but up, because season 1 of TNG is real dry, real dry. But you do get to see those dudes walking around in little
dresses,
the Starfleet skirts. Yeah, I love that shit. Those little Starfleet onesies. But now on to the question. Lately, I've been playing several games on the Nintendo Switch, whether it be at home or while traveling. In regards to owning games for the system, do you think it'd be better to own them digitally rather than having to physically carry all the cartridges around? I ask because at this point, I don't know if I want to have a bookcase full of games from a variety of different systems. Thanks in advance, Ryan.
I think you'd almost have for that, because it isn't like the storage on it like really small.
The built-in storage is relatively small. You can upgrade it, but the cards they're using are still very expensive. I can say that the cartridges are so small that they don't really merit. Okay, the cartridges are small enough that it's not a problem to carry a few of those around. You just stick them in your pocket, right? They're like smaller than a 3DS cartridge, to be honest. And the nice thing, that's the size. That's Zelda right there. They're real small. And don't lick it. If you want to lick it, I got 1-2 switch. You can lick the fuck out of that.
I was joking. I wasn't gonna lick it.
Grant's saliva.
I have no intention of ever licking.
But this thing is small enough that you could throw it in your pocket. You could throw it in a small case and carry it around. Right now, I think the other thing is that I feel like you're not going to need more than one game in your system at a time, right? Because I mean, I don't know if you're taking it on the go with you. Like, I feel like at this point, what you're probably either playing Zelda or Mario Kart, right? but I would say having the ability to switch to a different game, unless you're trying to show it off to a bunch of people, is not the greatest need. But the thing, Ryan, that I'll say is that this is the argument for all physical copies, is that if you buy it digitally and someday Nintendo turns that service off, you may not have access to be able to download it again. That's just physical media is in a lot of ways future-proof, because no matter what happens in the future, as long as the media isn't damaged, you can put it into your console and you can play the game that was on there. You may not be able to get the updates or whatever, but you can at least play the game that's on here. That being said, I haven't bought a physical 3DS game since I bought my new 3DS. I bought every one of them digitally because I'm just not interested in having a bunch of little cartridges around. So for the Switch, I still feel like having the cartridges is nice, but I almost feel like the answer to your question, Ryan, is that for me, and you should talk about this because I feel like I've just been rambling. For me, it's a time thing. Is in the beginning, I prefer physical media, especially when a system is very new. Also, a lot of times because I'm the guy in the group of people that I know who has every fucking game that comes out. So it's nice to be able to loan games to other people if you have a physical disc as opposed to digital. As the system gets older and older, I feel like there's more games that come up in a digital sale, or that I just want to buy a pre-order for some beta access, and so I end up with more digital stuff. At least that's been the way currently. I don't know. Do you have any preference?
I mean, not really. I mean, I lately I've been a little bit more digital, but it also depends on the type of game. Like, weirdly enough, like certain games, like I want a physical disc for. Like, I don't know why. For certain games, I want a physical disc. Like, that's how it's going to be. But other games, like every game I've been playing for the PlayStation VR, I want those digital. Like, I don't want those physical, just because it's a hassle to have the VR headset on, and I play one game, and I'm like, all right, I want to play a different game, and then I have to switch I have to take the headset off to switch out the disc.
Sure,
it's a lot easier just to be in the game.
Flip between them.
Yeah. I mean, there are some games I do have physical. Like, I think I have like 2 VR games that are physical, not counting Resident Evil 7.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, some of them are going to be physical. Some of them are going to be. I'm picky. Like, It just depends on the type of game. Like, my fighting games. All my fighting games are pretty much digital, like Overwatch, Injustice 2, fucking Street Fighter 5. All those are digital.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to have Injustice 2 because technically, I mean, it's not. I don't feel like it's an issue to name names here. Between Matt Frank and Chris Cox, I loan my games out to people, to the two of them usually. Yeah. And so I feel like this is one of those things where, like, we played that Samurai Warriors game last week. And I bought it physically. And when I got done, I was like, "You want that, Matt?" And he was like, "Yeah, I love Japan and all the crazy hats." And I was like, "Great, take it. It's yours." It's like I wish that I would have bought Bloodborne physically, because I would like to be able to try to turn people on to Bloodborne by handing them the disc and going, "Hey, take this home, try it out, give it a shot."
I did buy that physically, but yeah. But yeah, like, there are some games I do want physically, and other games that I'm like, "Nah, I'm going to go digital route with this," because for whatever reason in my head that it works. Because fighting games, I feel like I switch between. Like, I might play a disc, and I'm like, I don't want to play the story-driven game. I want to play a fighting game, and I'll just swap over. Yeah. And it's easier for me to just, without taking out the story-driven game disc out, just close it and go to the fighting game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, digital also works really well for games that I know that I'm going to be playing a lot over time. Like Hitman, Overwatch, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne were all great to have digitally, because it means that if I wanted to just be like, "Hey, I want to play some Overwatch," I just just blip right over to it. I don't have to dig out a disc. I don't have to find it. In fact, that's actually been an issue, because right now, between playing The Surge, Injustice, and Nier, and I think there's we just started up Doom for our new Sequential Saturday. Like, those are all disc-based games. So I've got all these discs now laying around, whereas, like Dark Souls 3 that we're playing, or Overwatch or whatever, those were all digital. So, all right, Ricky J writes in with the next question that says, "Good day to you, fine purveyors of anger and such. This is Ricky J on the site, loyal patron since the fabled days of Spill. Nowadays, we see many games with fun gameplay, cool mechanics, and interesting worlds, but it seems to be less common to see games with really good stories and characters. We get plenty of big sandboxes and standard shooters every year, but only 1 or 2 Witcher 3s or Horizon Zero Dawns every few years. Why do you think this is the case? Are developers incapable of writing a decent story? Are they too lazy? Is it too hard to write a good story? Or is what constitutes a good story too subjective to pin down? Much thanks and many grateful for the hours of fun you provided over the years. Don't you dare stop, Ricky J. And then he says, P.S. Jeff, you should organize an Injustice 2 tournament with the whole crew for the next live stream or Ragecast. I think many people would love to check that out. And then he says, a Jeff versus Jason final would be a clash for the ages, all of the spam. And when I was picking out questions, I ended up chuckling at something, and John was like, what's so funny? And I'm like, I could destroy Jason in Injustice. Like, yeah, he could jam on those buttons, but like Injustice is one of those games that has plenty of different ways to take care of somebody who's just standing on one side of the screen, just jamming on a button.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it would be a slaughter. I'm sorry. I'm not, all due respect to Jason Murphy, but I would fucking kick his ass.
He probably would
Tuesday.
He would probably admit that you would kick his ass.
Yeah, I don't think he would hold any. I don't think he would hold any. Apparently, like in Injustice 1 dojos, we had some kind of grudge match, and I forgot about it. And then people on the site were like, "Oh, Jason's not on. You guys had such a grudge match in Injustice 1," and I'm just like, "Did we? That was like 2 years ago. I don't remember that."
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Anyway, so let's break it down. Ricky J asks, why are there not better stories in video games? Now, let me just say briefly that from the wording of his question, it seems like when he says good, he means long, because he's cited Horizon Zero Dawn and Witcher 3 as like examples of good writing. Horizon Zero Dawn actually didn't strike me as having super good writing. Like I didn't feel a need. I didn't even finish playing the game. I didn't feel a need to go back to it after a while.
We have your copy. I keep meaning to play it.
Yeah,
but I've never played it.
Bring it back then. I got a PS Pro now. I can see what all the hubbub is about.
Like I really want to play the game, but I can't. I just keep forgetting that we have it until you mention it when I'm over here.
I don't know. So when he asked that question, my first response is, I don't know. I played plenty of games with good stories. I mean, maybe not great stories, but good stories certainly. I mean, I like the story in Injustice 2. That was fine. Nier Automata is getting all kinds of fucking praise for the story and how that goes. Yeah, I think back to the games that I played. Like Doom had a story.
Yeah,
it was a pretty good story.
Yeah,
it was a light story, but it wasn't bad.
Well, I think it's weird because I think we're still in this weird stage with video games where a lot of companies are struggling to how to tell good stories in a way that's interactive.
Okay.
Now, that's not to say that we don't know how to do that, because obviously there are games that have great stories. I mean, fucking look at Mass Effect 2. Look at you can name the Alan Wake games. You can name 100. Like you said, Injustice 2 has a really great story mode.
I liked it.
Like there are a lot of really good stories in games that have really good story modes, and I think that we do even have some newer games that are narrative games that have really good story modes. The Uncharted franchise I think is another prime example.
Yeah,
but I think it's one of those things where, hell, I'll even say that the story in fucking the Dark Souls games is fucking engaging.
I like it
if you can find it.
Yeah, I like it.
If you can find it, but not if you can find it, but if you find it and pay attention and start piecing it together, it's a really interesting tapestry of the story of what's going on in those games. A lot of games do, but we're at a point where we're now experimenting with how to tell those stories, because for a long time video games were level. Like it's like, oh, you play the level and maybe you kind of get a story, and like the stories like in the instruction booklet, or the stories in like on the 8-bit days you had like just levels, and then like if you wanted the story, like to find out Mega Man's story, you had to read the instruction booklet of what's actually going on. Same with Mario.
Sure,
you had to read the actual instruction booklet to know what's going on, other than character goes from one side of the screen to the next,
right.
and this is why they're doing it. And as time has progressed, I think we got to a point where it was cutscenes. Like it would be cutscene story, then gameplay, then cutscene story, then gameplay.
Sure.
And then slowly we started trying to figure out how to incorporate those cutscenes into the gameplay. And now I think we're at this weird experimental stage with stories in video games, where I think developers are trying to go, okay, how can I tell a story that is engaging, but is also one of where the player is also affecting that story as well. I think that's where a lot of people are doing now. Like, how do you get that story mode,
right?
So that your experience with that game is specific to you. And I think we're still trying to figure out the best ways to do that outside of just cutscene gameplay with maybe some story in it.
Right.
Cutscene gameplay with some story in it.
It's it also, I mean, it goes back to a thing that you and I have talked about before, which is one of the things that you're saying there is that most interactivity in video games these days, not all, and significantly less than there used to be, but a lot of the interactivity that you're getting in video games is violence, and your ability to write certain types of stories around violence. It's a different type of storytelling.
Yeah,
you don't tell a quiet story. I feel like we see.
I mean, they have done that with like games like Gone Home.
Sure, yes, but then it ends up being. It's almost like it's a thing that I say all the time. Where like there's almost like a gradient, and on one side you've got pure story, a la Gone Home or Dear Esther, Walking Simulator, and on the other side you've got pure gameplay, like Pac-Man, right, or Mario, or something like that. Somewhere,
Mega Man.
Yeah. Where the story, fuck the story. We're here for the gameplay, not the story. And then I feel like there's a slider there that, like, the more control you want to have over the story, the less control you can give to the player for gameplay, because there was an article that I read a long time ago that talked about player agency during a cutscene, and that if you let the player maintain full control over, like, the camera, like let's say a first-person shooter, and you're having a cutscene, and something is happening in the game, and you're not taking the control away from the player to make them look at it, they could miss it. Yeah. There could be something really interesting happening over here, but they were looking over there at the wall because fuck it, they didn't realize something was happening.
There have been games where I've done that.
Yeah. So in order to make the story work, you want to be taking agency away from the player. But if you take too much agency away from the player, then you become more of what would be like a walking simulator. Or as you go more towards the movie side, maybe that's it, game and movie, right? And then you slide between the two of them.
Yeah.
That as you tell a more complex story, you kind of need in a lot of ways to take agency away from people to make sure that they're seeing the parts of the story that work. And whether that's just cutting gameplay and going to a cutscene, or whether it's an in-engine cutscene where you take control away from the player, those passive areas tend to give you more stories. So I actually think there have been a lot of good stories.
There's been some great storytelling. I just think that right now, within the and I include the last, like, was it like 10, 20 years, 10 years maybe, 10 years now,
sure,
where we're starting to see people experiment with how to tell a story. Yeah. Like, and that's it's, and I think that's where it's going on. We're trying to figure out the best way to tell stories for the medium.
Yes. Yep. It's also very different because even when you just look at time, the way that, like, a movie, telling a story in a movie is a dunzo deal, right? It's 90 minutes to 3 hours if you're watching fucking David Lynch movies. You've got a beginning, a middle, and end, and there's even a formula for, like, your rising action, falling action, turns and twists and stuff like that. Games tend to be at least 6 to 8 hours long in a lot of ways, and the games that tend to be regarded as having the best, like, quote, storylines tend to be RPGs, which are more like 30 hours long in a lot of cases. So you're talking about writing a story that's 30 hours long, where the story bits are squirted into large areas where somebody else has control over your story. It's just kind of strange, and I feel like it's...
I'll even, going back to Gone Home, for example, something I thought was actually kind of interesting, kind of going along with something you said there, where, giving player control over the story, or how they discover the story, and, like, the looking over there and missing something. Well, when I played Gone Home, because I didn't know anything about it, like, I went in, I was like one of those lucky people that I didn't hear anything about it, I hadn't watched anyone play any playthroughs, but I'd just been hearing a lot of really good, like, chatter, like, people like, this is a game you got to play, this is a game you got to play, this is a game you got to play.
Sure.
So I bought it on a Steam sale, I think, and started playing it, and there was a moment where I'm experiencing the story. I'm like, oh my god, this is what the story is about, this is amazing. And Amanda's watching me play, and she's like, you're playing this game entirely wrong. Because I completely didn't get a lot of the stuff. Like, I figured out what the story was actually about, because apparently I turned left when I was supposed to go right, and got a whole part
broke the game.
Well, I turned left and got a whole section of story where it revealed what the story was about.
Right.
And then I went back to the stuff that started referencing spooky stuff. So I was like, well, wait, was the thing that I read before? And like, and man was like, no, you went out of order.
Yeah.
You played the game out of order. You went.
I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, no, it totally is.
Okay.
Because they don't lock you out of areas in that game. You can actually explore that house in any order you want. They do things
out of some stuff.
Well, they do things to try to tell you, hey, go over here.
Yeah.
But I'm the type of asshole that when a game tells me, hey, go over here, I go the other direction.
Yeah. Well, because there could be a treasure chest down there, and you don't want to have to go back to get it later on.
Exactly. So that's how I played that. And because I did that, I experienced a whole part of the story completely out of order.
Okay.
Like I think I got if you were to break the story up into like 5 parts, I went 1, 3, 4, 2.
Yeah.
And then 5. Like it was like I went just out of order for it, and so like the build up didn't have. It was still really engaging. I still really enjoyed it, but I experienced it completely out of order, and it changed my experience based on what everybody else had.
Okay, fair enough.
So I don't know.
All right, our next question comes in from Daniel, and Daniel says, "Hello, Rage Masters. Is there a premise or setting from a mediocre/bad game that you wish was done in a better game? For example, I like the premise behind the whole Lost Planet series. The idea of being a rough and tumble explorer trying to survive on an ice planet, making it habitable sounds was a cool idea, but I found the games very average as a whole. Thanks and take care, Daniel."
The Order 1886.
Ooh, good answer.
Like that's the first thing that comes to mind. That game had so much fucking potential.
Yeah.
And it was such fucking garbage.
I really like that game, John.
Really?
No, I was just trying to get you to yell at me about games.
Oh, I was like, really? I was like, well, here's the thing. It's like, I'm playing. I'm like, wow, this story's really good. Too bad everything else about it sucks.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say, it's like, yeah, I started playing the game. And I was like, hey, this game's pretty good. And it's over. And it was,
well, there was that
over.
Too. Well, it was that too, but it was just
fuck you, Order.
But it's just like I felt like there was so much like better and cool. Like the story, like the history of the story is more interesting than the actual story you get.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Like the lore of the game, it's like, no, I want more of that. It's like, no, but you need to do this story that lasts only like 5 minutes.
Yep.
It's like, but no, I want the lore over there that you're taking. No, I'm not. Okay, all right, it's over.
I am going to dig myself a hole. Are you ready?
Go for it.
Are you ready?
Go for
Can
it.
you guess my answer?
Probably not.
Oh fuck! I forgot the name of it. God damn it! Too much prep. Alpha Protocol.
Okay.
I love the idea of kind of a Mass Effect,
Jason
spy,
Bourne, Mass
Bourne,
Effect,
yeah, kind of thing where you get to like choose like kind of how do you want to play this game?
I agree with you. That game everything about that game should have been in a better game.
Yeah.
There was some really and there's some really good stuff in the game. It's just
I wouldn't know.
Wish it was better.
I just keep trying to play it and then go.
I played most of it. Like I got close to the end on it, but it could have done so much better.
Yeah.
But it's a decent game. It's a decent budget title, but I wish it was in a better game. Yeah.
So the whole thing is that I love the idea of modern day because so many games. This goes back to kind of one of the story things. Is so many games tend to be set in either a futuristic world or a medieval world because it's easier to get away with violence and to rewrite your world the way you wanted to, as opposed to setting it in the current day and age. That's not to say there aren't current day games. There obviously are.
Far Cry.
Yeah, exactly. But tons of games are set in the past or in the future or some kind of alternate multiverse. I always like the idea of there was somebody who did a mock-up one time of a Souls game set in modern day times, where it was like somebody walking down the street and they had like a bat and their pyromancer flame was like a lighter, and they had the Estus flask was like a orange beer or something like that, and then they had, there was like a full mock-up of what this would look like, and so it was a street and it had like hollows, but it was like in what looked like Tokyo, and I'm like, that sounds cool. I, for one, couldn't wait until Assassin's Creed finally got to modern day. As I'm like, hey, that sounds cool, like Assassin's Creed in modern day.
And they took it away from us. So I'm a big fan of modern day. It's one of the reasons I thought the Secret World would be kind of cool, because I like stuff where it's more connected to where we are right now.
I think it's one of the reasons I like Hitman so much, is because Hitman's just a game that takes place in 2017, right? Or 2016, I guess, when it came out. So Alpha Protocol to me seemed like a perfect mix of kind of like, we're going to do some action, we're going to do some adventure, we're going to do some espionage, we're going to have some social bits and all that story stuff that Ricky Jay was talking about. It's going to be in there. We're going to have some cutscenes. We're going to make some renegade decisions. Yay! And then it was just like, okay, technically you did all that, but I don't like this game. So that.
Yeah, it was very much, I wished it had been the Jason Bourne of video games. Like, it literally just could have been this really awesome RPG stats action game, and it failed on a lot of places. But it's not a bad game. It's just not it should be a better game. Yeah, it's mediocre. It should be a better game.
Yeah. I also think, I know that a lot of people like The Evil Within. I didn't really care for the moment-to-moment gameplay of The Evil Within. Maybe I need to go back and give that game another shot, but that was also another premise that I thought, I like the idea of kind of weirdo horror, like, we're in the mind of a killer and everything is strange. Also, fuck. I had one. God damn it. It was right. Oh, of all things, Murdered Soul Suspect was an interesting premise.
It was even an interesting story.
It just didn't.
The twist was garbage, and the gameplay was kind of mediocre. But yeah.
Oh, here's another one. L.A. Noire has an interesting system, but it just didn't. It ended up also being mediocre because you're just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, they spent way too much time like jerking themselves off about the tech of how they capture the face scans and everything. Which it's fine that they did that, but do more work for the game to make it an actual game.
The trailer made me think that there was going to be more, that it was going to be more Grand Theft Auto-y.
Yeah.
More driving, more gunplay, more like side missions or whatever. And that, I mean, like, God damn. If there had been 85% less of the investigation stuff, and a lot more just kind of like driving around, doing some action pieces, radiant side quests, kind of like Red Dead, where, here's a guy and he robbed a woman. She's like, that guy stole my purse. Then you just stop the car and you're like running down and you're trying to get him. Along with some of the other stuff, like 1940s LAPD, that's such an interesting place to set a video game that I just wish there would have been more things rather than just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Also, when Cole turned out to be such a fucking piece of shit, I was just kind of like, aw, man, damn it. But even that is kind of an interesting twist on things.
Yeah, I thought that was weird that they hid that for a little bit in the game. Before they hid that, it's like they tried to be like, well, you the player are playing this character, but you don't know this thing about this character.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, no, you can't do that. That's,
I don't know. It may just be me talking from just coming off finishing Archer Dreamland, but like that's such a great place to set a video game that I really wish that somebody else would make a video game in like the 1940s LA kind of, what's that, LA Confidential style,
yeah,
or like Chinatown or something like that, you know. All right, one more question. This one comes in from Captain Innuendo, who says, hello, Jeff and John. Captain Innuendo coming at you with some questions. I was talking to a friend at work the other day about the new Alien movie. I thought it was an all right movie with some problems, much like Prometheus. I'll tell you about Prometheus. It's a piece of shit movie. It sucked.
I actually like Prometheus.
My friend, no, you can't like Prometheus. I declare, let me tell you all the reasons why it's bad. My friend, on the other hand, thought it was awful, and he hated the whole experience. He then went on a small, contained rant about how his favorite movie franchises
Man, there's a theme going on here.
Yeah, we got a lot of... I told you. It went on a contained rant about how his favorite movie franchises are all being ruined with the most recent entries. The Alien, Star Wars, and X-Men being his main examples. This got me thinking. What franchises, movies, books, games, etc. do you love but have started to diminish in quality over time? How would you fix them if you had the power to do so? Second question, if you have time. If you had the power to make a game, your perfect game, what would it be? How would it play? Would Michael Ironside voice a character? Would he voice all the characters? Any and everything you want in the game can be rolled into one. Thanks, as always, your loyal patron, Captain Innuendo. And then he says, so glad that Red Dead Sequential is back. all Michael Ironside.
Yeah, it's Michael Ironside Simulator 2017.
I'm going to make my 1940s cop drama, but every character, men, women, dogs, is all going to be Michael Ironside voicing them. Oh, man.
I got better.
Okay.
Same thing, all Gilbert Gottfried.
No, it's just Gilbert Gottfried and Michael Ironside. It just switches between
they're
the two
cops.
of them.
Yeah, they're buddy cops in the...
Cole, get in here! Anyway, so what franchises do you love but you feel have started diminishing quality over time, and how would you fix them if you had the power to do so?
Well, I mean...
I think Alien has definitely gotten weird and off the rails between last week. I talked at length about how I didn't like AVP Requiem, and
I haven't
didn't
seen
like Prometheus,
the new Aliens movie.
and I haven't seen Covenant either.
Yeah, I want to, though. Like, I'm actually interested in seeing it. So,
Star Wars, I'm iffy about. I did not care for Rogue One, but
Rogue
Force
One
Awakens
had some
was
problems.
okay.
It was good. Rogue One had some problems. Force Awakens I loved. I actually really loved Force Awakens. I'm trying to think of like a franchise that just as time goes on, the thing is, I don't know if I love...
Let's not go back down that road. We're just going to put the kibosh on Superman and the whole DC universe.
I mean, I feel like there are franchises that have diminished over time, and I can't really think of anything that I just like vehemently loved at the very beginning, and then outside of maybe Indiana Jones, which I love the first three, the original trilogy, the Indiana Jones movies. Those are fucking great. Crystal Skull, it's not a terrible movie. It's not a good movie either.
It's pretty bad.
Like it's
pretty bad. Like
I don't consider it the abomination that some people do, but I also totally understand the thoughts on that movie, and the fact that they're thinking about doing another one, sure, whatever. Hopefully it's not as bad.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Like I'm having a hard time thinking of anything that that has more than like two movies to its name.
Okay, I'm gonna give my answer. We'll give you some time to think about this. So, Captain Innuendo, here's the question: what franchises have started diminishing in quality over time? Answer: all of them. I feel like as I get older and I've already seen iterations on stuff, every franchise, I liked Episode 7 less than I liked the original trilogy, right? Original Star Wars trilogy. I liked Ghostbusters 2 less than I liked Ghostbusters 1. I liked the X-Men movies. Yep, I feel like got worse over time, even though something like Logan was really good and I really enjoyed Logan.
Actually feel like the X-Men movies got bad and then got good again.
Yeah.
And then got bad again.
Okay. I can go with that.
It's also weird because like Bryan Singer's X-Men's 1 and 2, good movies.
Sure.
Really good movies. I actually think X-Men 2 is better than X-Men 1.
Okay.
X-Men 3, which is, what was that?
Last Stand.
Last Stand, when they switched to a different director.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking garbage.
Yeah.
First Class, fucking great.
Yeah.
First Class, the second First Class movie, whatever the fuck it was called, Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
It's okay. It literally, when they went back to Bryan Singer, it kind of started to go back downhill again. But
I personally...
but you want to know a franchise that hasn't had diminishing returns?
What's that?
Fucking Fast and the Furious, motherfucker. That franchise gets better with every movie.
You know what else gets better with every movie? I've said this from time to time, and when the words come out of my mouth, I barely recognize myself in the mirror. I think The Purge gets better every new movie that comes
you're right.
out.
You are right on that, because the first Purge movie is fucking absolute garbage.
It sucks.
It is terrible. The second movie is like, that's a little better, but it's still a bad movie.
Yeah.
And then once you get to, what was it, Election Year? Or whatever, like that was like, it's actually really good.
I kind of like this movie.
This is actually really good. Why do I like this movie?
Why do I like this movie more? For the most part, though, I would say that just about every franchise that's out there, to me, unless it's something like it depends on what you're talking about. Like Harry Potter works because over time they're telling a story that was already plotted, right?
Yeah.
But like when you make a movie where you weren't already plotting for the sequel, then I feel like when they come back in to make a sequel, they have to like come up with some bullshit to make another one.
It's the Back to the Future thing. It's like they just ended the movie with the whole going to the future thing because they thought it'd be cute. They didn't have a plan for a sequel.
Right.
And then they got told to make a sequel, and they're like, oh shit, because we don't want to go to the future because we hate future movies.
But Then they made 2 and 3, and 3 is probably my favorite of all three of the movies.
Great. Three's great. Three's great.
Fucking Western. Marty McFly.
No, I'm just saying, like, to explain, like, your.
But then the second question that he has about how would you fix that? I wouldn't, because I don't want franchises to go on forever. I want new shit. I feel like I say this all the time. I want new stuff. I want new projects from new directors that are new stories. I don't want it to be based on a comic. I don't want it to be an adaptation or a reboot or whatever. I want brand new shit from people that are hungry and want to make their mark on the world, because those to me are the movies that I love the most, that get stuck in my craw, that I watch over and over again over time. So, like, I liked Inception probably more than the Batman movies, and just because I dig the new so much, and if you can show me something I've never seen before, more's the better. If you can present me with a spectacle of a thing that I have never even thought about, I'm just like, what? Whoa! It's why I probably like Doctor Strange more than Civil War, because although Civil War was great, a bunch of heroes fighting each other and all kinds of crazy stuff, then you do Doctor Strange and it's just like fucking the world's all twirling around in a kaleidoscope and fucking throwing lightning bolts at each other, and I'm just like, oh shit, I haven't seen this before.
Yeah, and here's the thing: I'm not against franchises. I think there are a place for franchises, but I don't think every fucking movie needs to be a franchise.
I agree with that as well.
I love the Marvel movies, and I'm okay with them being all interconnected, but not interconnected. Like, I think I like Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2 a little bit more because they're kind of a little bit more, like, off on their own section.
Right.
But I'm okay with that being a franchise. I'm okay with DC Comics being a franchise kind of thing. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like the Mummy movie, the new Mummy movie, is now part of Dark Universe, which is the new Universal franchise of all of the Universal movie monsters.
Right.
It's called Dark Universe. Why does that fucking need to be a franchise? A shared universe franchise.
Are they rebooting it already? Because did anybody watch the Dracula Untrained?
Oh yeah, no. The Dark Universe starts with the Mummy.
Oh, okay.
So everything,
because the Dracula was supposed to be part of that, right?
Originally, the Dracula Untold was supposed to be part of that originally, but then they changed their minds.
Who cares? Skip to the Avengers monster movies. We don't need a movie to if you put a mummy on screen, it's a lady mummy. I don't give a fuck where it came from. It's a mummy. We know what a mummy is. We know what a Dracula is. We know what a Frankenstein is, and we know what a Marv Wolfman is. We can put them all on screen and have a graveyard smash, and we'll just all be like, yeah, all right, cool, whatever. You don't need 16 movies to establish your fucking quote dark universe unquote.
Yeah, and then so it's like I don't know, like I don't think, like, that's my biggest thing, is I don't think everything needs to be a fucking franchise anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with the franchise movies. I'm okay with movies that were done as done in one kind of thing, and then somehow did so well that they wanted to do a sequel, and then did so well that they wanted to do a third one, and then like kept doing well. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, that's fine. And you're right. Most likely diminishing returns are going to happen, because that's in 9 times out of 10, there are very, very few exceptions to that rule.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a Fast and Furious thing where, the movies are kind of stupid, but in a really good way.
Yeah.
And each movie kind of ups the ante in a way that each movie is better and better and better, kind of thing. Sometimes you can have that.
Yeah.
But, sometimes you don't have that. Sometimes you get the fucking Resident Evil movies.
Triple-barreled shotgun, John. You telling me that's not better than the last movie? Come on. She rides a motorcycle a lot in that last movie.
She does.
Just a little bit.
She does.
Did you see it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. That and the Transformers franchise are the 2 franchises that I've only seen like the first 2, maybe 3 movies.
Well, shit.
And suddenly, like, I always am like, one day I want to sit down and watch all of them. And then, like, I'm also like, but at the same time, that would require sitting down and watching all of them.
Too true.
But I really want to sit down and watch all of them. But at the same time, I don't.
It's like you already know it's going to be a waste of time.
Yeah.
So you can't find a part of your life where it's like, I don't really have 9 hours to just burn.
But I kind of want to.
Right.
Yeah. So,
like,
those are the 2 film franchises that I'm like that with.
Okay. Well, with that, I think we're done.
All right.
So that's been another Rage Site podcast. Mail at RageSite.com is the email address. Get them questions in, preferably not questions we've already answered.
Yeah.
But Yeah, send them in, and
You know what we should go do right now?
what's that? Go watch that mummy movie?
No, let's go fucking watch Resident Evil.
Oh God! All right, let's do that.